Hi, I'm Grant, this is Dad Crafted, and this is the Star Wars miter saw station. All right, let's go. Welcome to part one of the Star Wars miter saw station build. I used to use just a basic miter saw stand in here, and that had several problems. One, it wasn't very mobile. Two, dust got everywhere. And three, it just looked pretty boring. So the new build had to be mobile, have dust collection, and look like it came out of Star Wars. So I made this glorious contraption, because why would I just make something out of plywood? Let's do a demo. I don't think there's a single Star Wars miter saw station on the internet.
Well, there is now.
I chose to split this video up into multiple parts because there's just a lot going on here. It took me a long time to make this thing, and it took me even longer to edit video for this.
You have made time an ally of the rebellion.
That's right, Grand Moff Tarkin. I'm gonna own that one. Ultimately, there are just too many steps and processes that I want to document as part of this video, so that's why it's gonna be a multi-part series. I just can't justify myself putting out a 30-minute YouTube video.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Yeah, me too. So this is part one, where I'll talk about design and construction, also talk about the technique I used to make the plywood look like metal, and also talk about the design and construction of the dust hood. All right, let's go. All right, so the stand is going to be made up of 3/4 inch plywood. I made some rough sketches in my book of how I'm going to basically form the box and the back, and I'm going to cut all those pieces out now, and then I'll figure out the rest for the drawers and the door faces and all that stuff once I get there. There's a whole lot of ripping down of plywood to make all the parts that form the box. To do that, I should have used a straight edge or some kind of a, what are those called? Rip cut device? What is that? Usually I save a 8-foot long piece of 1/2 inch plywood to use as a straight edge that I can just clamp down and make straight cuts. With this thing, I was like, it's a Star Wars cabinet. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be grimy and whatever. Don't be like me. Use a straight edge. Make sure straight cuts happen. That way, when you go to put this all together, everything's going to fit nicely. I used lots of pocket holes on this project. If you don't like pocket holes, I don't know what to tell you. They're easy, they're quick, they're convenient. They just work. Nobody's going to see them. It's all getting painted.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Another reason why pocket holes are great, because you can use handy tools like this Craig pocket hole jig clamp thingy. It works really well for holding things together while you screw in your pocket holes. Pocket holes. Because of where the screws from the pocket holes went, I actually had to get myself into some really weird positions to screw this thing together. All right, so it fits. Pretty happy with it. I don't know if we need another stabilizer in the middle there. This thing's kind of heavy, but by the time we get the drawers and everything else, it should be good. This will actually be a little taller right now, a little low, but we're gonna put one more board on each side of the bottom so that it's thick enough for wheels to go up through. We'll put the casters on, that'll kind of elevate things about 4.5 inches or so, and these come off, and then this should sit flush with pretty much my regular workbench if I know how to do math properly. I designed the cabinet with 2 big drawers and then cabinet space underneath. The drawers are a little bit shallow, and that's just so that I have room in the back of the cabinet for the tubing that will come later with the dust collection. Underneath that, just 2 cabinet doors, and that's for later. I can store my lathe, my sander, whatever.
I don't like sand.
This video isn't really intended to be the best way to make drawers. I don't like making drawers. I probably don't know what I'm doing. I just made some 1/4 inch dados on each of the 4 pieces. I put those in place around the 1/4 inch plywood and wood glue and screw everything together. I'm not putting a ton of weight in these drawers. They'll be fine. I like to just use a round over bit with my router just to kind of round everything off, make it nice and round, nice and smooth.
I don't like sand.
I screwed some simple locking casters onto the bottom. These are 4 inches. I should double check that. Do I have a tape measure here? 2. Look at this. Let's film this right here. Wrong. They are 3-inch casters. Everything got a coat of primer that I rolled on and brushed on. I did that because it just seemed like too much spray paint since the size of this thing's pretty big. And then later I used Rustoleum's red flat paint, mainly because it looks like rust, and you'll see a lot more of that later. You'll see a lot more of that later. I stole this technique from Michael Alm. If you want to learn how to make plywood look like metal, you should definitely check his video out. He does a much better job of explaining how this works, and he got a lot better finish out of it than I did. So, you do 1 coat of shellac, and then you come back and lightly sand.
I don't like sand.
And then after that, you come back and do a coat of wood putty. Lay it on as thin as possible, fill the wood grain as best you can. Then you come back, lightly sand 1 more time.
I don't like sand.
This is a lot of extra work. If you have the money or the resources, I would suggest just making this thing out of MDF. MDF's heavy and kind of hard to work with at times, and if it gets wet, it can, graham cracker up and explode. But really, if you want to make it look like metal and you're just going to paint everything, you don't need to do all this. This is a lot of extra time. So the back of the hood is already in place from the original box design. The piece that runs along the back of this is 1 big sheet of plywood that runs bottom all the way up. The sides here are essentially just windows. So rip down more 3/4 inch plywood into strips, made a window ×2 both sides. I route those out along the insides, and then those later get filled with plexi for that panel. The top is just another piece of 3/4 inch plywood. It's sized to fit the window panels in the base. And then I just round everything off with a router like I did a lot of the other pieces on this cabinet to make everything round and smooth. attach, just screw straight down, fill it with wood putty, everything gets painted later. Alright, so I'm stealing a technique from Bob, and I like to make stuff. I have to figure out the front panel, what it's going to look like and the shape of it, and to do that I'm going to use a piece of cardboard. This needs to cover as much surface area as possible so that as much dust as possible will get sucked up by the dust collection. But I don't know the shape yet, so I'm going to use this cardboard to try to put over here and try and cut out at least a template that I can use to then cut out the real thing, which he just used a piece of like 1/4 inch MDF or 1/4 inch plywood, but I'm going to have to figure out how to make a frame similar to these side panels so that I can put plexiglass in it and make it look like Star Wars. Don't know how to do that yet, but first step is figuring out the shape. The front here is cut from 1/4 inch plywood, and this is the shape that I think works the best for this saw. As I showed before, I had to do some testing to make sure that this thing slides and moves and everything. Since building this, I can tell you that I have bumped into this a few times in various spots, but the whole purpose is this thing comes off. We'll get to that later. So that seems like a pretty decent place to stop. We have a structure built, we have our wood turned into metal, and we have a hood for dust collection. Now we can get into the fun stuff. But for that, you're gonna have to wait for part 2 of this video where we are gonna Star Wars the crap out of this thing. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, check that notification bell, all that good stuff. Smash that like button, smash the like button. Who smashes anything? Smash the like button, smash it. Sounds stupid. And we have tons of other projects on the channel that involve Star Wars, or if that's not your thing, there's just some plain old woodworking things. Check those out. Anyway, we'd appreciate you considering subscribing. It kind of sounds like begging, but I'm not above that. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. So the space behind me used to be the home to my miter saw station. The miter saw station.
They call me Pocket Hole.
Who smashes anything? Smash the like button. Smash it.